Something's touching my foot. All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the garden. It is July 8th. It's 90 degrees outside. It is pretty warm, but the garden looks excellent and I couldn't help myself from filming this. So let's take a look. So as you can see here, I've done a little bit of work since the last garden update video. And if you haven't already watched that one, you should check out all 43 minutes of it. So as you can see right here, we've got corn growing and we are just past the 4th of July, and the old saying says it should be knee-high, and I'm just going to say it's good enough. On the outside, it might look like things are dying, and that's not good. It's actually how I've planned this. At this time of year, these peas, they'll start to die off, and the ones that I didn't end up eating, I'll just collect the seeds. And you can see there's a nice one right here, and this is nice and dry. So I'll come around and I'll pick these and I'll just put those on a tray that's going to dry out even more so. You don't really want to have any moisture when you're collecting seeds. It leads to some mold. If you put it inside the plastic bag, it creates a problem. And hey, look, I left a weed in here. So let's go ahead and get this thing out of here, because that leads me to my next point, which is I've spent a lot of time weeding in the last few days, trying to make the garden look nice. And I have to say, it looks nice to me. Hope it looks nice to you guys too. And I've also been spending a lot of time just properly tying various vining plants to sisal, and those go up to the trellis here. And you can see all of the tomatoes are tied. I'm gonna have a video coming out on that, so stick around for that. If you haven't already, subscribe and you'll get notified when that comes out. But yeah, as we look around here, all of this is, you know, going almost as intended. Right at the very end, we have a straw flower plant that this was the first year that I started flowers, and you can see this is the tray left over. Every year I start trays of a lot of plants, and right here you got 12 different plants growing in there. I can feel this is actually pretty warm, and that might be kind of bad for the plant, just how hot it is outside. But the ones I, cared about, I got in the ground. The ones I cared about next, I put into these containers to have some variety. Got my herbs over here too, and a cucumber that is the slowest growing cucumber on the planet. That thing's probably baking in that container. Yeah, why don't we just go ahead. We're gonna have to move all these up there. And it's nice to have this wall that I built with my patio right here. I built all this by hand a few years ago, and it's really nice for gardening. You can come up and put stuff down there, plants when you're working on them. And I also like to grow bamboo, but keep them in containers because I don't want to plant that in the ground around here. And over here, we got blue spruce that I did when I planted 600 trees this year. And let's take a look. So the peas, again, are kind of dying off. And the thing that I was about to mention was, when they die, they release nitrogen into the soil, because peas are nitrogen fixers, and they fix nitrogen and release that back. So it's actually good to plant them early, let them die, and then those will provide some nitrogen to the corn, as well as the cucumbers I have on the ends here. So a couple of Gershwins, one here, one there. This one's doing a bit better. You can actually see there's some little Gershwin cucumbers, and this is my first year growing them, so I don't have high expectations of what those are going to look like. Well, really, I don't have any expectations of what those are going to look like. I have high expectations they'll grow because it's a new seed I got from Johnny's, and they always seem to do a good job with their seeds. Not really trying to plug it, just saying that's what I've seen so far. Row 2 here, we got some tomatoes on the end, but tomatoes all the way down, as well as a Cosmo that was a volunteer from last year's plants. And you can start to see we've got some tomatoes forming. We got a couple guys right here. That one's got a little blemish on it. That's okay. And a couple more tomatoes here. Those look pretty good. And I want to say that those are the early girl tomatoes. And this is the first year that I've grown early girl. And it's really nice to have all of these labeled, because otherwise I would have already forgotten what they were. And the popsicle sticks, well, you can see these are actually doing okay. I could tell that this is a mortgage lifter. This is just a better marked stick. And these do look like the mortgage lifters, as I recall. They have a shape that, is typically not a standard circle, but they become very large and they're really good for putting on a burger or a sandwich. So that's that. Over here we have apple yellow, and I was actually really excited to start seeing these form because they have a nice apple shape as it sounds, and they will be yellow. And the cool thing is I collected seeds on these last year in 2023, and I waited until the very end of the season and collected the nicest looking one that looked the most like an apple to collect my seeds. And it's nice that these are starting to reflect that. So collecting seeds has its benefit, and you can have a little more control over the plants. I also have a bit of a theory that the seeds adapt to the area they're growing in over time. So the more times they grow, germinate, and reseed here, and you collect those, the better adapted they will be to that environment. I just imagine that's how it works. But down here, it looks like we got some flea beetles on here. That's what the flea beetles look like, if you haven't seen them. These tiny little black flea type bugs. So I don't come around and spray or apply anything. I just let nature do its thing. And historically, flea beetles haven't been bad enough to warrant doing anything, just because, yeah, they make the leaves look, you know, not great like this. You can see they make the leaves a little bit tattered, but unless I see a massive infestation, I probably won't do anything about it. And then over here, got the winter red. These were the deepest red tomatoes that I had, and they grew well into the winter last year. So I just decided, let's start them, collect seed and start them up this year. In reality, they're one of the tomatoes that I grew in here. I just don't know which one it was, so I relabeled them, which is kind of more fun. You know, I'm not trying to sell my seeds. If someone stopped by and wanted a plant, I would grow them one probably, but I'm not gonna, you know, go out of my way to sell them. And then a couple of flowers on the end here. Got a pepper. This little space wasn't really used because my tomatoes went to there, so I just decided to kind of fill it in. Otherwise, you just, you know, you see weeds. So we got some flowers. We got sweet sunrise pepper, which I think is maybe an orange bell pepper. We got another Cosmo, which is a volunteer. I didn't plant that one. Actually, take that back. That one I probably did plant because of the Cosmos were in my sort of selection of plants that I grew. And then this is a cucumber that's looking really good. I want to say this is probably a Corinto. Yep, it's Corinto. And this is a one that I collected seed on from 2023. And it's doing a really good job growing up there. I just wrapped it yesterday a little bit more. But I did not do this. The tendril is wrapping itself. And it's really nice to see. What I do tend to do myself is help it out, wrapping it around this. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't think it quite needs it. They tend to actually kind of flip and start going downward. When they do that, I just pull them back up and wrap them. And once it gets to the top, if it gets to the top, probably won't have to do a ton, and there'll be some cucumbers that I'll have to climb up a ladder to catch. That's okay though. So we get some other stuff mixed in there. And then I was doing a little bit of pruning up on the patio, and one of my plants, this guy right here, which was a gift from a few years ago and just keeps doing its thing, had to be pruned back a little bit, so that's what you're seeing there. This isn't really a native plant by any means. Doesn't stay warm enough around here in Zone 6B to warrant keeping that thing outside. But right here, this is a one of my many gourds that I planted this year, and I'm looking for the name. Here it is, honeydew. So it looks like we got a little bit of a flower right there, another one, and I got to keep this path open because this is my kind of walkway into the garden from one direction. But the honeydew is looking pretty good, and you can see I staked it so that, well, I sizzled it so it would go upward. Over here, this is for the most part the pepper row. This is a volunteer tomato that is in a good enough spot that I decided I would just let that go. And then if you look down the row, you can see that my peppers are doing pretty well. A lot of dark green leaves ever since I mulched and kind of cleaned it up and made sure they're getting a little bit of water, and so they're doing well. You can see there's a couple of bell peppers over here, and you can see we've got a few peppers that have some leaves. If I see something like this, usually I'll just come and pick it off. And to me, that one looks like maybe it needs a little bit of water, but the drip is here and there, so maybe not. Hard to say. But yeah, we got some nice peppers right here, little bell pepper forming. To be honest, I'm not sure that I want the plant putting that much effort into you know, a flower at this point in time, to me that kind of signals that it was ready to flower and it was ready to start, you know, putting its energy into flowering instead of growing too early. So maybe I should come through and cut that. Let me know what you think. I'm not entirely sure. And there's a lot of bell peppers that we just saw, but over here we got like poblanos and more of the hot peppers, I want to say. So each 4 of these are poblanos. I've had some success with those in the past, kind of in high heat, we'll say. This is a goddess. I think it's a banana pepper, and then we've got a stick that's got a little dirt on it. Fresno. So those are typically very, very hot. And I'm just starting to smell the herbs and the basil as I walk down here. But so peppers are doing really good. This corner here, again, this is one of my favorite, and I don't think this was here yesterday. I mean, it probably was, but I didn't notice it. This is a nice little spaghetti squash that is just growing here, so that's cool. And again, I came through and I trellised all these up with sisal. And I use the word trellis to really just mean tie and give the plant some support that it otherwise wouldn't have. And if I kind of look here up at this trellis that I built last year, it was kind of a quick build, pressure treated wood, painted white, let it kind of dry out and make it look like a combination of a fence and a trellis. Kind of also a little bit like a pergola. But it's nice to have something that's really tall that you can just tie all the sisal to. You buy one spool of sisal every couple of years and you're good. You don't have to spend $80 per tomato cage. Those are some of the worst, you know, things ever. Cucumber, doing well. This is the Corinto of the seed that it came from. That's the Corinto of the one that I collected. And yesterday I was thinking, wow, this doesn't look as good. And then I realized it had like, this like whole extra section over there. So anyways, that Corinto doing well. This one doing well. Could probably come through and pick that cucumber just to allow it to put more effort into growing out those leaves. Already harvested, I think, 3 cucumbers so far, which is nice. And then over here we've got my fig that I'm super happy this thing came back. I thought I had a chance that it wasn't going to make it, but it made it back. And over here you can see a little bit more fig on that side, so it's kind of cool. You got a fig on this side of the fence, fig on that side of the fence, and as you're walking down that path you get to see the fig, and then you get to see some of these flowers that are going to be growing up in here. So they do look like they're maybe getting a little bit of shade, but that's okay. You can see one's actually starting to form a bud right here, so that's nice. And then we got our volunteer Cosmo, and this thing is basically just as tall as my waist right now. So this is a tall Cosmo for early July, but that's what happens when they self-seed. So healthy Cosmo, you can see this thing is getting just big. This is a healthy stemmed Cosmo for the first, second week of July. And you'll see that I had a lemon tomato here before this thing was taking over. I think the lemon tomato is back here, and you can see it's small compared to the Cosmo. This one right here is actually a volunteer. It's gonna help it out and take off some of those dying leaves. So lots of tomatoes, we saw those, and these tomatoes look good. I'll come through and I'll just pluck off some of those dying leaves. They'll fall off themselves for the most part, and you don't have to pull too hard. That's kind of the trick. You just give them a little bit of a tug. If they come off, they're about to come off anyways. Over here, some peppers that got munched on by a deer a little while ago. I don't really know what's going to happen with that, but to be honest, there might be a rabbit or something on in my garden that I haven't really seen that's been munching on stuff, and this is kind of like a first alert, so to speak. And these peppers over here look like they got maybe a little insect damage. They're not doing well compared to everything else in the row. But walking down here, we can see we've got some cilantro that self-seeded last year, tomato that self-seeded last year, and then I got my parsley. I did actually plant that one. It's doing okay. Kind of should have had more parsley. I think a lot of them just died because I failed to water them. Pretty standard. Over here we got some celery. Celery's all doing really good. This is probably about, I don't know, 1/10 of the celery that I have. I realized just the other day that my seeder actually really worked to plant celery. Now I've got a whole row of celery, but that might get eaten by the animals. We'll see. Not sure if the animals, like rabbits, if they like celery or not. Over here, we got some dill. So this is all the dill that I just kind of tossed in here. And then this is the dill that I started inside earlier this year. So interesting to think about. And then we got some basil. Basil's doing good as always. Then we got our gourd right here. I think this guy is a, well, this girl might be a cinnamon girl. Yep, it's a cinnamon pumpkin. I think it's called cinnamon girl pumpkin. And I'm fairly new to growing pumpkins and a lot of these gourds this year, so I'm just kind of seeing how, you know, they grow and where the vining parts are. And I think like this, you know, it starts down there, but the vine is kind of growing out to here, and I'll probably have to tie that up at some point, but for now it's not in the way. I'm going to tie it when it becomes a problem. So look down here, we can see all of the lettuces that I started this year are doing pretty well. We've got our Salanova, and this stuff last year just did not bolt, even though it was like super hot outside, and you can see these nice green lettuces. I'm tempted to just pick some of those. So Salanova, probably should grow more of that. And then other varieties here, but the other one that did well last year was the endive, and the endive did not bolt, grew pretty much all year. And I think this was the longest running celery I had last year. And then I think I got to mulch this in here. I kind of ran out of my homemade mulch when I got to this point. And also I've done a little bit of weeding, cleaning up, so now you can really see the ground is just getting dry and dirty. So gotta go ahead and mulch this. As we get down here, you can see we got a spaghetti squash on the left, and we got a big moose pumpkin on the right. And again, first year growing both of those. We'll see how the trellis works or does not work. So you can see it's been a couple days since I came out and looked at the spaghetti squash, and you can see it's already wrapped a tendril around the garden rake. So it wants to grow. It wants to grow up the garden rake, and I think I might need the rake. I'm not sure, but that would be kind of a fun little garden design concept, using old garden tools to trellis. But you can see right here, I've got some sisal wrapped around as if I have cats, you know, outside, which there actually are a couple of wild, well, probably feral or just neighborhood cats that show up, and I don't know their names, but they help take care of the rodent population, which is great. I tied the big moose yesterday, this pumpkin up here, and if these pumpkins get as large as I think they will, I may end up having to have the tractor come in down that way and use forklifts to take them off the top of this trellis here. We'll see what happens. A couple of plants I planted earlier this year, and got a watermelon over here. And you know, in the madness of planting everything, I don't have a ton of watermelons, so I am hoping that this the wording on that sign's a little hard to read, but that's the Sugar Baby watermelon. I'm hoping that that one does okay. There's actually decent soil underneath this. There's a landscape fabric here and then sand, so this isn't really planted in sand, even though it looks like it is, but it's growing like it's planted in sand, so I don't know. Here's the oasis. This thing is awesome. This is my trough. It's filled with 300 gallons of well water that haven't really had to fill this at all, just because we've gotten a good amount of rain. I do have a fish tank net over here to collect if any bugs fly in here. And the nice thing is, it's helping me reduce the number of Japanese beetles that I have around here, because they seem to fly into this without, you know, without thinking, and they can't get out of there. Back here, got our ice cream banana. I have 3 banana plants that I got this year, and you can see I really haven't done any work to pot it, and I'd like to get that into a larger pot, maybe a 10-gallon, let it grow. It's gonna have to be inside during the winter. I've got a couple other bananas that I want to get in the ground here and see if I can do a good job covering them during the winter so that they grow back next year. That's the best way to have really tall bananas in a place that you otherwise wouldn't be able to have bananas. Over here we have a goji berry from several years ago. That's a gold raspberry, fall gold, and those are actually really nice raspberries. I wish I had done more to get that thing in the ground this year, but I've said that for the last 4 or 5 years now. Random plate of strawberries down there. A couple of dragon bamboos left and right. This is something I'm pretty happy with. Just take a look at how clean this path is. So I spent a little bit of time the last couple days weeding, and by a little I mean the majority of the July 4th weekend just spent weeding and cleaning the garden, because now I just, I get happy every time I come out here and look at it. And let's just take a look at how nice that looks. We got our mulched summer garden to the left. We've got our oasis bamboo bananas up in the front. And then new to this year, I cut back the kale. These are like the 3rd or 4th year kale. They just don't die. That's good if I ever really needed some kale. And I planted flowers in the front so that when you're hanging out in the trough, you get the flowers right here. And zinnias do grow really well around here. We'll start to see a bunch of different colored zinnias. If I planted them properly, they'll be there, and you'll get to relax and hang out in the tub and look at the flowers. But you might see there's already a whole lot of flowers, and those are all of the carrot flowers, Queen Anne's lace. And those were all planted last year with my seeder, and I just like to let things grow and see what they do if I haven't grown them, before. So last year was the first year that I was really successful with carrots. We'll go back to the carrots in a second, but I just wanted to show you what's going on with the strawberries. We've got a few little grasshoppers jumping around there, and I have something to say about grasshoppers in a second. Please remind me. Over here, strawberries have done a decent job filling in. This little section needs a little bit of work. Maybe I could toss some healthy compost or just dirt, soil in there and help those strawberries grow, but I think that's kind of, compressed and barren compared to the rest of it. Over there, we have my hibiscus, and I'm noticing some cool orange colors. So let's actually step in here, which I wasn't planning on doing. So you're seeing this live, more or less. Take a look at how cool this leaf looks. So I haven't seen a leaf like this before, but I have a feeling it's just the hibiscus. It's getting wrecked by those Japanese beetles. I kind of need like a little Japanese beetle trap or something right here, or maybe on the corner post. And with that said, it still seems like we got enough growth here where we're gonna see some nice flowers popping up pretty soon, and those are gonna be the size of dinner plates. So the GoPro overheated, and I'm not entirely sure where it ended. So in front of the strawberry fortress, as I like to call it, you can see still lots of strawberries. They're actually growing through the landscape fabric because it's getting old enough that it's falling apart a little bit, but it's okay. Got some asparagus that's kind of grown in front, some onions and some herbs and stuff mixed in. I haven't really looked at the herbs in a while, and things definitely look kind of dry over here, maybe just because the drip irrigation's in there and not so much out here. Got some grasshoppers popping up here. These are the chives that I put in there a little while ago, and then over here the oregano here, and it seems like it's doing pretty well. So happy to see that. Over here you can see my asparagus. It kind of reached its peak height maybe a few weeks ago, and it's produced some asparagus berries here, which I think would be the seeds. And nice if it's gonna, produce more asparagus itself. Down here you can kind of see how big some of these asparagus canes got, and some of the seeds just falling around. Over here we got some more of the gourds. Got the acorn squash right here. We got our zucchini, kind of small fruit right there. Then we got a larger zucchini fruit right there, and I actually came out here and harvested a pretty big one the other day. And as you look down here, you can see all of the Queen Anne's lace, aka carrot flowers, growing. And let's walk to the other side. You can see how many flowers we have. In the last week, over the July 4th weekend, I spent a lot of time just weeding, cleaning things up, and making it walkable. So if you look down the path here, you can kind of see how nice and clean that is, and it's just a really nice sight to see. In the future, I'm hoping to see my greenhouse at the very end of the stretch there. So got to build that first though. And as you look over here, you can see the first row here. It's got all sorts of potatoes, and again, this is getting hit by drip, but the soil is just getting hit by the sun. and things are kind of drying out, so it would really benefit from some mulch. I do have to make a whole nother basket of mulch. I got to get my chipper out, collect some down branches and make some mulch, and I'll do that pretty soon, probably in the next week. So hopefully that'll be the next video. We'll see some mulch there. And then if you look down the next row here, this is this year's carrots, and if you see all those flowers right there, all those really nice carrot flowers, and you look down here, this is what that looked like. Just one row of my cedar creating that many carrots and that many flowers. Really nice sunflower right here. Excited to see that. I think that's a dwarf sunflower. I'm gonna step in the shade here because it is warm out. And then if we look down here, you can see all the alliums, and it's really a nice sight to see. I did a little bit of work tying up some bamboo and some sisal dragonfly hanging out. That's dragonfly pose right there for you yoga fans out there. See if you can get all fours down, your wings out, and your tail up. He came back. Yep. If we look down here, you can see all the allium flowers, and they're attracting a lot of beneficials, as they say, this year. We've seen a lot of different types of bees in here. We've got our bumblebees, we've got our honeybees, and there's a brand new bee to me, I guess we'll say, that I had never seen before. It looks like half wasp and half bumblebee, and it's called the Great Gold Digger Wasp. And I know it doesn't sound like a positive name for a wasp, and they should probably call it the Great Wasp that also digs holes and is golden. But hey, I don't make up the names. And apparently this thing paralyzes grasshoppers and doesn't kill them, just paralyzes them, wraps them up, digs a hole, feeds it to its larva, and that's why it gets its name. Also, it's gold. So it's a pretty cool looking wasp. I was taking a step back when I saw them for the first time, and I've had a few swarms of them kind of around here. They say they don't really travel in packs, but saw maybe 3 or 4 of them kind of all in the same area. So nice to see, and I'd like to think that the work I've done in the garden is a reason why they're here. So it's nice when something that you do attracts kind of a new set of wildlife. It's just nice to see. See the monarch butterfly shooing away that honeybee, saying, hey, now this is my nectar. Butternut squash, that one's doing okay. So hopefully that'll just keep going that way and take care of the weed problem. This guy's been hanging out all day though. Really nice to see. Try not to spook him. He doesn't go too far when I spook him. He's overly interested in all the alliums. And this is all mint, so this is not something I intentionally grew. I don't mind it. It smells decent, but I do have to keep it in check, and I probably got to cut it back because now it's taken over where I'm supposed to have peppers. And this was a pepper. My OG Bell is gone, I'd like to say. I don't actually see it, so I have a suspicion that the animal that been making its way this way. Anyways, guys, it is 90 degrees and feels like 110, and the weather is warm, and I think I've covered almost as much as I really wanted to show. I wanted to just go down this row here, show you. We got some peppers up here. I had to cut back some lettuces that were bolting, but I was pleasantly surprised to see I had some celery from the cedar. I couldn't even remember what I used in this little section of the cedar because I ran down maybe 6 times. There's definitely onions here, there were some lettuces, there were carrots, and the celery has finally popped up. And as I came through and I weeded, I found the celery here, and maybe every 1 to 2 feet you can see there's another one right there and right there. And so I'm gonna really hope that the celery makes it, because I haven't really had some decent celery grow at all. And yeah, as you can tell, I'm getting super super tired from being out in this weather. All right, guys, well, I grabbed my thermometer and you can see 101 degrees and 48% humidity. So it's a hot one out today, and I think for that reason I'm going to end the video here. And if you watched it to this point, I really do hope you liked it and can tap that like button, and please subscribe to the channel because there's going to be a lot more updates on the garden and some other interesting projects. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.